The reality is venture funding for Web3 projects has plummeted 82% year over year. That's a staggering drop from $9.1 billion in Q1 of 2022 to only $1.7 billion in 2023.
Funding to VC-backed Web3 startups is plunging, and only 333 deals were completed in the first quarter.
With OpenAI CEO Sam Altman's WorldCoin project raising $115 million in a Series C round led by Blockchain Capital. Layer Zero raised $120 million backed by Andreessen Horowitz and Chris.
What we've seen over the last couple of years was unsustainable. There was a lot of chase for deals at unsustainable valuations. Now founders are a lot more grounded when they ask for money.
Yeah, well, we're definitely in a winter in terms of funding, but as we've seen in previous crypto winters, where the price of Bitcoin may go down, the actual innovation actually goes up. And
welcome to the Money Panda, hosted by Elvis Kolawole.
Hello, everyone. You are welcome to the Money Panda, your podcast where I bring together lots of the players in the Web3 space, and we get to talk about some of the most trending issues and some of the most pressing issues affecting each and every one of us in this industry. Today, I have a wonderful man with me. His name is Juanma Saez. You can call him Juan. You can say Saez, like I tend to pronounce. Juan is the CBO and co-founder of Nomu Labs, and he's also a venture fellow for Neo Capital, right? Or Neo
Neo
Venture,
Ventures.
Neo
Yep.
Ventures. So, and today, myself and him, we're going to have a very fascinating discussion on venture capital and Web3, because through Juan's experience in the venture space, through being a venture partner, he has definitely interfaced with a lot of brands, with a lot of startups. And also, of course, being the chief business officer and a co-founder, he's also definitely interfaced with a lot of the same problems that founders face. And he's had the opportunity to talk to a lot of startups in the space. So he's going to give us a bit of an insight into what venture capital is currently in the Web3 space. So Juan, before we go forward, why don't you tell us a little bit about your work with Nomu Labs and with Neo?
All right. What an introduction, Elvis. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to you always. And yeah, I was working full time as a business consultant in Neo Ventures since January 2022. So over a year now. And basically, what I was doing full time was looking for startups that needed funding, and we analyzed their business model, their team, which is the most important aspect of those startups, and we'll get into it later. But yeah, we talked to the team, we reviewed their numbers, and then we decided if we were going to invest in them or not, right? So then after a while, after a few months, I you know I decided that it was time to try to start something on my own, and I met these two guys speaking at a university in Madrid. And we founded what Nomu Labs is today, which is a Web3 consultancy out here in Spain. And right now we are very focused on a project that's basketball related. We are doing a gamified, sorry, loyalty program for a basketball analytics company. So we're currently under development. We have a web app going on with some tests. We have around 300 users, and we're gonna drop an app later on this year. So we're very happy with how that is going. It's been a lot of work, but yeah, that's going pretty well. And then with Neo, I'm still in kind of like a part-time position in the same way. I still talk to some startups maybe 1-2 hours a week, and see if we can help them. The thing about Neo is that it's not a very traditional VC. The tickets are not really high. The amount of money we put in is not very high at once, but we do tend to stay with the company, put them in contact with the board of directors, give them, help in the marketing side and the business side, and all the different aspects that they might need some assistance. And we're right there with them. So what we like is to invest little money every year and help them grow. That's basically what Neo Ventures is about. So that's a very, very quick summary of both the things that I do basically.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay, so that's beautiful. I like that. And it is specifically for some of that work that you do
Yep.
for a few hours a day that I feel will be very useful to a lot of people, because it's a challenging time right now in this
Yeah.
space. And for like on both sides, right? I believe like on the founder side, it's not exactly the easiest time to find funding. And even at the investor side as well, it's not exactly the easiest time to find the best startups, startups that
Yep.
have like a very viable future. And it's not exactly even the best time to raise, to actually like raise funds that to
Yeah.
actually invest. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's one hell of a time, but I feel like we definitely can get into a lot that will help both sides and give
Yep.
some perspective that's very much needed. So first things first, like in your opinion, what's the state of funding in today's market? Do you feel it's on the rise? Do you like how do you see it like from the side of an investor, and also on the
Yeah.
side of the startup?
Well, I feel like it's slowly but surely rising. The thing that we must be careful, both as founders and investors, is we have to be able to, know when there's a bubble happening. Right? There was a
Mm.
bubble with crypto and blockchain technology a couple of years ago, 2021. NFTs were going
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And people were looking for that next huge project, that next Bored Ape Club. And yeah, and you need to be very careful with that, because now after that I was like, all right, people have already been fooled in some ways into some projects that have been scams, or some business models that were clearly you know not going to work. But you need to really understand that technology to know how to implement it as a founder, and know if it's a good business model as an investor. Because right now
Mm-hmm.
we see with AI, chat gpt came about November, December. The world went crazy with AI. I've seen so many projects, and I'm not going to mention any names, right? But but I've seen many projects that are just plugins of ChatGPT, right? That you're like, dude, anybody could do this, right? This is not a good business model. So I think that the state of investing is still recovering for what happened last year with the market and the war and everything.
Yeah.
But I think that investors have to be, first of all, founders have to have a more imagination. They have these technologies, they need to use them. They need to learn how to use them, but they need to learn how to use them in a unique way that makes sense. You can't just say, hey, we're using AI, I want to get money. You need to be using AI the right way. You need to be using blockchain technology the right way. So I think that investors have the obligation of really educating themselves in these types of technologies, how they're implemented, and how to analyze if the business is going to make sense or not, in my opinion. But I think it's coming back. In talking about Web3 specifically, it's very interesting to see that many of the major companies in the world have started to use or look into NFTs. Maybe they call it digital collectibles. They try to yeah, but they are looking into it. You've seen many different companies, Amazon, Nike, Adidas, many of the biggest companies in the world are looking into it. I think that's a very good trend for the market and for companies that are here to build.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And like you saying that, it brings me to something else. It looks like there's a bit of an uptrend, right? Where there are like major players coming into the market, but does that necessarily mean from an investor's point of view, from a VC point of view, you are already bullish on the market? Do you see like this uptrend continuing? Do you feel like, because of these giant companies coming into the space, you feel like it's a healthier market to build right now? Like, what do you think?
I think so, because that gives people proof of concept, right? First of all, it gives a sense of trust, and that's very important for investment. The trust is psychological even, but when you see other people doing, especially guys or companies who are supposed to have thousands of analysts looking into it, right? I think it's good, and it's good for people like me and you who are already in this market before this is happening, right? So when people come here, it's like, dude, it's like climbing Mount Everest. You want to go with people who've done it before. You want to go with people who know this space. So people who are already in this building in this timeline, I think good things are coming for them in the next couple of years with this market situation. I think it builds trust, and I think it builds proof of concept, which is two things that were missing
Mm.
in the NFT blockchain space before, in my opinion.
Hmm, that's true. That's true. I think
Yeah,
I think it definitely helps to have like actual projects that show some sort of a proof of
yeah,
concept, you know. And it's yeah, it's great when it comes from, like you said, people that already do have competent professionals on board, and not, you know, people for trying to shield their next project or like bounce off
yeah,
after making a bit of money. So,
yeah.
okay, that being said, since it appears we might be on a trajectory towards a healthier market and there might be more confidence in the space, given that, you know, we have these giants like BlackRock, we even have Blackstone, as I heard, and so many huge private equity entities and so many other huge names coming into the space. Like, what do you think founders right now should do in order to position themselves to be funded, to be well funded?
Um, okay, so I think that one of the first and the main things you have to look at from the business perspective is how is your, how, of course, how good is your business model, how much money you're going to make, but also what type of company are you going to make, what type of cost structure you want to have, right? The cost structure is very important. Most of startups that fail, it happens, well, either because the team fights with each other. That's why I said the team is very important in the beginning. Team is crucial, but also because they turn to maybe burn money when they get it, right? You get money, but you're burning it, and you're not making the best out of it. That's what I mean by burning it. You have to really look at the burning rate. um, and I think that founders need to be able to show that they're just not using, that they understand the technology, as I said before, right? They understand the technology behind their company. They are in touch with their developing team. They know how to talk to investors on how they're using this technology to get their business model going. But they you have to be careful when just saying like, hey, I have a blockchain project, I have an AI project. You need to really know how to defend that against somebody who might know the technical side of it. um I think you need to really know your business like end to end. That's what I suggest to founders, because you know it's the as I said, I feel like VCs and private equity companies and all those funds are going to need to get some of that technical education going, to not get drawn into these technology bubbles that are bursting, basically one each year. So yeah, I think that they education on their own project, on other projects, to talk to other funders, talk to guys on LinkedIn maybe who are on a VC who are willing to talk to you. I think that's what you need to do. You need to be very open to feedback too, very open. There's nothing worse than talking to founders who are very anti-feedback, who think their idea is going to be the next Facebook, the next, which is fine. You might think your next idea is the next Facebook, but that company has changed a lot since the beginning, right? Since it started. So
Yeah.
you need to be very open to change and to feedback, and really know the market and the business model. That's what I would advise to founders.
Hmm. Okay. I think that's very good because at least like on the most idealistic level, right? You want a founder to know their stuff. You want them to understand their business model end to end. But like I also wanted to address something. Do you feel like, you know, there are other ways perhaps they could just make themselves a bit more attractive? You know, there's this running meme, as you must be aware, the fact that if you want to get funding in 2023, just add a bit of AI to your pitch deck. Just add a bit of AI, just the same way, people were splashing a bit of Web3 into
Yeah.
their pitch decks in 2021, 2022. You know what I'm saying? So aside from splashing a bit of AI into your pitch deck, do you advise that? And do you think, perhaps if that's unsustainable, there are other things people can add to their pitch decks which could help them, be more attractive to an investor?
Um, I think AI is right now is, as you said, a trend, but it's also very easy to add to your portfolio as a company because it's very easy and pretty cheap. Like ChatGPT Plus is 20 euros a month, and it's sometimes better than than a junior worker even, and depending on their capabilities. But it's very cheap. It's easy to use. You can put AI out there, and it looks good. It looks like you are. I think that putting AI, it has a deeper meaning than just saying like, hey, it's a bubble or it's a trend, because it means that that person or that company is actually looking out for ways to make their business more effective. AI
Mm,
is right now one of the top ways of doing that.
mm.
It makes it more cost effective, time effective. Even we use it all the time in Nomu, and without AI, the project that we're building would be pretty tough. I'm just I'm gonna admit that right now. But yeah, I think that being on top of those trends, being a curious person who's looking into you know different ways to make your your business more effective is of course very positive. I think that that has a deeper meaning than just saying, "Hey, we're using AI or we're using Web3." It means you're on the lookout. You are investigating how to use it, how it benefits your business. I think that's a very positive sign, in my opinion.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I like something like that because, well, to a certain level, it could show that at least on the operational side, you're doing all your best to maximize value and maximize your efficiency. So,
Yep.
I think one more thing I would like to touch is there something you currently do not like, something you find really worrying about the state of funding right now, like really worrying trend, or perhaps just a story as regards funding in Web3 that has caught your attention and has you a bit uneasy?
Um, I think that some of the worst parts of the worst times in Web3, I feel like are behind us for,
Hmm.
as we know it. I think so. Like the main scams, the FTX of the world, even I know a Spanish company that recently got into trouble. It's called Banger Games, and they got into trouble because they raised a bunch of millions, and they disappeared with the money. So I really hope, yeah, I really hope that that time is behind us. I've seen a trend, towards more humanization of those projects.
Hmm.
Before in the bull market, anybody could raise money in Web3, even if they didn't have their camera on. It was just a PFP. You didn't even really know where they were. Like I worked in a DAO for some time, and many of those guys were like that. Were very, they didn't want to get doxxed. And I've seen a rise in personalities in Web3 that are more like you're doing, for example. You're putting out content to teach people about how to grow in Web3. I think that's very valuable. People like that who are actually putting their face, their name, their brands out there. That's a pretty positive trend. And I think that the days of the cash tornadoes and all those scams that went about in last year and 2 years ago, I really hope that that's going away. Also, like some of those founders have been punished pretty heavily, have been thrown in jail. So I think that that's the way that people learn how to not, how to not mess with the system, if you will. So I
Hmm.
think that I feel like the trends are rather positive in that way.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So like nothing necessarily too worrying, something that will pique your interest and
Well, I the thing that I'd be worried more is regulation, right?
hmm.
When you're working on a Web3 project, you have to be very aware of the regulation and the changes that come out in place, because the last thing you want as a founder is regulation to change and your business model to go away. You're you're screwed. You're like, what do I do now? So you need to be ready. You need to keep yourself informed. You need to talk to lawyers who are, in this space, and be aware of those changes to be able to pivot your business. That's the thing that I would say. Hey, be careful with this to founders. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's true. Definitely, because I think especially in some countries,
Oh yeah.
in certain countries, I'm not gonna mention some countries, it feels
Yeah.
like it feels like a bit of an assault,
Oh yeah.
on their ecosystem, and it's not exactly looking pretty, but hey, we might see like a bit of an exodus, from
Yeah.
such countries, and we just have to see how exactly that plays out, like geopolitically and stuff, because it's always like intertwined, I guess, with startup growth and some industries, because Web3 generally is intricately linked with cryptocurrencies, and that's linked with the financial system, and financial system is linked with other powers that might not exactly be too invested in this industry
Yeah.
growing. So I mean, you have to definitely account for all of that.
Hmm.
So I think we've come to the end of this podcast. So I would say, I want you to tell whoever is watching one thing that you feel like they need to know heading into the end of Q3 2023 stroke Q4 2023, especially if there's a founder listening. If there's one thing they probably need to know going into Q3 2023, Q4 2023 to be more competitive as the fundraising scene is, evolving. Is there one thing you feel
Uh,
like a founder should know these last few quarters?
Whoa, that's that's a pretty deep question.
Uh,
Yeah, let me think. One thing, of course, that I would say is, uh, it's pretty tied to what I explained before with
okay.
putting AI on the pitch. But yeah, just be on the lookout. Like I think that making your company work with less employees and less costs has never been easier.
Mm,
Never been easier. So keep looking for those tools that help you grow as a company, that make it easier for you as a founder. Keep looking for that type of technology. Follow, the YouTube accounts that review these type of
yeah.
platforms, and don't stop using them. Like there's tools for literally anything that you might think of in different ways. I would also say work on your personal brand, possibly start a podcast. Starting a podcast has never been easier either. Gives you a voice. Yeah, gives you a voice, gives you a platform, gives you a way to network. Um, those are the advices that I would give. But always be on the lookout for those AI tools. ChatGPT is only the beginning. More and more will come, and it's never been easier to make your business cost effective.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
So, definitely one should try to look out for more productivity tools, especially in the world of AI, and
Yep.
try to use a personal brand, of course, because I also personally believe personal brands could serve as a good piece of leverage, especially
Yep.
as, things get competitive going down the line. So anyways, so I think that's really valuable, and I'm very, very sure a lot of people listening into this, found lots of this really interesting and have taken so much from this. Juan, I'm so thankful for you coming through and sharing all of this wisdom with the people, because I think some people really need to hear this, because I know founders who are reluctant to, to hop on the train and perhaps, maybe over automate every part of their system. But I think this might give them the courage to do that. And there are also people who debate the needs for a personal brand as well. There are
Yeah.
really a lot of founders. In fact, I worked with one personally very recently, that really didn't like the idea. So I hope this is something, more people find insightful, thank you so much. So if you're still listening, this has been Juan, a venture partner at Neo Ventures and the CBO and co-founder of Nomu Labs. And we've been talking about venture capital in Web3. I'd love you to go listen up to this episode again and have and follow Juanma Saez on LinkedIn and wherever he is online. And also follow me, Elvis Kolawole, for more tips and much more commentary on what's going on in the space. Till next time, I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.